Today we are continuing Song of Songs with our fifth video. Now we have been through chapters 1 and 2 with Shulamite and Solomon's mutual attraction, their courtship, and their engagement. We have been through the wedding and we have been through the honeymoon. In chapter 5, it seems that we see Shulamite and Solomon in an argument. At the end of chapter 4, in verse 16, they are on their honeymoon and Shulamite is inviting Solomon to be close to her, saying, "Let my lover come into his garden and taste its choice fruits." In chapter 5, verse 1, Solomon says, "I have come into my garden, my sister, my bride. I have gathered my myrrh with my spice. I have eaten my honeycomb and my honey. I have drunk my wine and my milk." So it seems as though they have consummated their marriage. And then at the end of verse 1 in chapter 5, their friends are encouraging this bonding between the newlyweds. It says, "Eat, O friends, and drink your fill, O lovers." But between verses 1 and 2, we don't really know how much time has passed in Solomon and Shulamite's relationship. Maybe they're still newlyweds. Maybe they've been married for some time. There are different theories on what is or has occurred to get Shulamite and Solomon to this point. But in verses 2 through 7, Shulamite has another dream. "I slept, but my heart was awake. Listen, my lover is knocking. Open to me, my sister, my darling, my dove, my flawless one. My head is drenched with dew, my hair with the dampness of the night. I have taken off my robe, must I put it on again? I have washed my feet, must I soil them again?" My lover thrust his hand through the latch opening. My heart began to pound for him. I arose to open for my lover, and my hand dripped with myrrh, my fingers with flowing myrrh on the handles of the lock. I opened for my lover, but my lover had left. He was gone. My heart sank at his departure. I looked for him, but did not find him. I called him, but he did not answer. The watchmen found me as they made their rounds in the city. They beat me, they bruised me, they took away my cloak. Those watchmen of the walls. So what appears to have happened is that Solomon came home later than Shulamite was expecting him. And then she fell asleep and she started dreaming. In verse 2, Solomon tries to entice her to wake up. But in verse 3, she's like, "Must I be bothered?" Almost like, "You couldn't be bothered to come home on time, so why should I be bothered to get out of bed for you?" But in verse 5, she does get up, and again we start this nightmare of not being able to find Solomon. In verse 7, in her dream, when she asked the watchman where Solomon was, they beat her. And I think that this symbolizes Shulamite beating herself up for how cold she was acting towards her husband. But let me make it clear that this is my own interpretation. This is just what came to me when I was reading the Bible. So the watchmen beat her, there are bruises, they take away her cloak, and then she wakes up. Then in verse 8 she says, "O daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you, if you find my lover, what will you tell him? Tell him I am faint with love." So in researching for this video, I saw someone say that you want to be very careful who you choose for your wedding party, because it's not just people who stand up for you during your wedding. It's also people who are supposed to provide wise counsel for you in your marriage after you get married. Like, that job never ends, especially your maid or matron of honor and your best man. And in verse 9, Shulamite's friends ask her, "How is your beloved better than others, most beautiful of women? How is your beloved better than others that you charge us so?" They don't tell her what a mistake she has made, or they don't automatically take her side or anything like that. They are asking her what makes Solomon such a catch that she is faint with love. And I do take notes in a journal when I'm researching for videos, when I'm reading the Bible for videos, and when I'm writing out what I want to say for videos. And so as I was writing that part, what came to me was the faint with love. And what came to me was, why was she so faint with love? Like, faint is almost like I'm so overcome with my love for my husband that I feel like I'm going to pass out. And what came to me in that moment was conviction. And I believe that God was convicting her about the way that she reacted to Solomon when he came home late. And that Shulamite realized that it was wrong to treat her husband with such indifference and not at least give him one time to explain what had happened. Especially, like, now the Bible never makes it clear, but if it's the first time that this has ever happened in their marriage, then she should at least afford him that opportunity, because it's the first time. If it's happened over and over and over again, I could understand why she's so upset about it. But if it's the first time, why would you be so indifferent? Like, it's almost like being a spoiled brat. In verses 10 through 15, Shulamite talks about all the ways that she loves Solomon, but she gets to the heart of the matter in verse 16. "His mouth is sweetness itself. He is altogether lovely. This is my lover. This is my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem." And I believe that it is in this moment that Shulamite wakes up and she grows up. And she talks about how Solomon is altogether lovely. He is not only her lover, but he is also her friend. Enough time has passed in their marriage for them to get past the lust of it all, right? Quite honestly, the horniness of it all. And she realizes that he fulfills both for her. He fulfills the romance, but it's not all romance. It's also friendship. And he fulfills that in her as well. And a lot of times, people will paint with a broad brush and say that women are generally more mature than men. But I really think in this case that Solomon was more mature than Shulamite in the way that he approached this argument. He, so far, has not done anything to find him at fault, except he showed up late without explanation. But I mean, they didn't have phones back then, so it wasn't like he could call and say, "Hey, honey, I'm going to be late, and this is why." Now, he's a king. Could he have sent someone ahead? Sure, he could have. But no one really knows what the situation is at this point. No one knows what happened. And for her to respond with a cold shoulder is probably a little bit immature and inappropriate. Again, especially if it's the first time. But she does realize in verse 16, as she's talking about all the ways that she likes him and loves him, she realizes in verse 16 that he is altogether lovely, and he is not only her lover, but also her friend. When her friends say what makes Solomon so great, Shulamite doesn't have to think twice. She just goes into this explanation. Her heart already knows. And so if you think back to that video that I saw where the person says, you want to choose people in your wedding party that will provide wise counsel for you even after the wedding, like throughout your marriage, then that's kind of what her friends do for her. They don't talk badly about Solomon. They just say, what makes him so great? And so she starts listing it. And it's almost like as she's listing all the ways that she likes him and all the ways that she loves him, then it's like all of a sudden a light bulb goes off and she's like, doing, oh, he is altogether lovely. Not only is he my lover, but he is also my friend. So in chapter 6, her friends are like, great answer. We'll help you find him. What direction did he go? Like, we'll go after him with you. And so in verse 2, Shulamite says that he went to his garden. Now, at the first of the video, at the end of chapter 4, and even at the beginning of chapter 5, Shulamite and Solomon both call her private parts his garden. But she's saying, no, I don't mean it that way. Like, he went to work. He went to a literal garden. He went to an actual garden to do work. And in verse 3, she repeats the words that she spoke when they got engaged. I am my lover's, and my lover is mine. She is still devoted to Solomon as part of her commitment to him, as part of her wedding vows. Verses 4 through 9 show Solomon's turn, his part in this argument, and also the making up process. Verses 5 through 7 say, turn your eyes from me, they overwhelm me. Your hair is like a flock of goats descending from Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of sheep coming up from the washing. Each has its twin, not one of them is alone. Your temples behind your veil are like the halves of a pomegranate. And those are the words that he spoke to her during their honeymoon. And this is an act on his part that he is still devoted to Shulamite as part of his commitment to her, as part of his wedding vows to her. And so both of them are mirroring each other, reassuring each other. And then he continues in verses 8 through 9. 60 queens there may be, and 80 concubines, and virgins beyond number. But my dove, my perfect one, is unique, the only daughter of her mother, the favorite of the one who bore her. The maidens saw her and called her blessed. The queens and concubines praised her. So Solomon is not saying that he has 60 queens and 80 concubines and an unlimited amount of virgins, okay, at his disposal. And if she doesn't straighten up, he's going to go to them. What he's saying is 60 queens there may be. So he's like, if there were 60 queens, and if there were 80 concubines, and if there were an unlimited number of virgins, it wouldn't matter, because my dove, meaning Shulamite, is my perfect one. She is unique, and she is the only daughter of her mother, the favorite of the one who bore her. And that is the only one that I want. So he goes on to reassure her that even though they're having this spat, he still loves her, and he still chooses her. And then Solomon continues in verses 11 through 12, and possibly explains to Shulamite what happened and a possible explanation as to why he was late. Now, I have seen commentaries on possible explanations for these verses, and they all say that Shulamite is the one that was speaking. But very clearly, the title for these verses say lover, and lover has always been the male speaker, thought to be King Solomon. So I'm not really sure why the commentaries would say that this is Shulamite, but it makes sense to me that this is a possible explanation from Solomon to Shulamite about why he would be late coming home. Verses 11 through 12. I went down to the grove of nut trees to look at the new growth in the valley, to see if the vines had budded or the pomegranates were in bloom. Before I realized it, my desire set me among the royal chariots of my people. So what he's saying is, I went to do my job. I went to go check out the grove, do some agricultural work. And in verse 12, before I realized it, he says, my desire. So what he's saying is, I wanted to look to see how everything was growing, to make sure everything was all right. That was his desire. And before he knew it, there were royal chariots around him, and there was other work that needed to be done that took precedent over that. And he was taken away to do other work that was more immediate. And so the reason why he was late coming home is because he had to work. And basically, he had an emergency. And again, could he have sent some people home to tell her? Probably, maybe. But could Shulamite have at least given him like beforehand, have given him some time to explain what was going on? Absolutely. But Solomon did not hold that against her. When she goes looking for him, when they find each other, when he comes back to her, however it is that they meet up with each other, Solomon doesn't go, nope, you had your chance. See you later. Have a good night's rest. You wanted to stay in bed? Stay in bed. No, he extends her the grace she should have extended him. And isn't that a lot like Bible verses that we have seen in the New Testament that say that we should show the compassion and mercy that God extends to us? So that's exactly what Solomon is doing for his wife. She should have shown him some grace. She should have shown him some compassion. He's coming home looking to be in the arms of his wife after a very long day of work, and she shows him the cold shoulder. And that's not what he was looking for, and that's not what he wanted. And he could have very easily said, two can play at this game. I'm going to show you the cold shoulder too. Don't come down here trying to apologize to me now. I was going to give you an explanation, but the way you acted like a spoiled brat, nope, not going to do it. No, he didn't do any of that. He said, oh, you're calm now? You remember that we're devoted to each other now? Well, I remember that too. So now let me tell you what happened. And I think that's a perfect example of how to fight fair in a marriage. And it's in the Bible. is to extend grace, to give your all, even when the other person can't do it that day, to continue to give as much as you possibly can, even when the other person can't continue to give their all, even when they show you that they're human and they let you down, that you just keep doing the best you can and not play games. They didn't play games in their mutual attraction. They weren't afraid to tell each other how they felt. They continued to spend time with each other and continue to encourage each other in their courtship. They continued to do it in their engagement. They encouraged each other throughout their honeymoon. And now they're doing this in their marriage. Like Solomon took the lead in their honeymoon and encouraged Shulamite and was there for her and gave her kindness and patience. And he continues to do that in an argument. And he is taking the lead as the husband in that relationship and showing her how it needs to be done. And I think it's beautiful. Until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. I love y'all. Have a great day.